Hello everyone, Santa here with my Guild Wars 1 skill review project. Today I'm finishing off the Ritualist, so I'll be talking about spawning power skills, and I'll be talking about PvE-only skills and the sole no attribute skill that Ritualists have. There another one like Necromancer that just didn't have very many no attribute skills for some reason. So spawning power, aside from having a bunch of skills in it, also each point or each rank in spawning power gives 4% more health to animated creatures you control, or summoned or animated creatures you create. So that includes Necromancer minions and Ritualist spirits and Ranger spirits and all those. Gives them 4% more health, and your weapon spells last 4% longer. Excuse me. So it does have that added benefit. You usually want some amount of it when you're doing a Ritualist build, but you don't have to, because you don't necessarily... You're not necessarily wanting to make your spirits tankier. You're not necessarily wanting to make your weapon spells last longer. For example, if you're using some of these one-shot things like Zinray's weapon or Vengeful Weapon or whatever that I talked about in the Restoration Magic episode or video, then making them last longer is kind of irrelevant, but that certainly can be useful, so it's good to be aware of that property. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the skills, starting with Anguish Waslingua. So this is 5 energy, 2-second cast time, 30-second recharge item spell. Hold Lingua's ashes for up to 50 seconds. While you hold her ashes, your Ritualist hexes cost 4 less energy and last 33% longer. When you drop her ashes, all of your Ritualist hexes are recharged. So this is one of those skills that's like, oh man, that's really cool. That's actually quite powerful. Making all of your Ritualist hexes way cheaper, making them last, a third longer. All of that's great. And recharging them when you drop her ashes, that's a really nice little benefit. It sounds really cool until you realize there is 5 Ritualist hexes. So, that becomes less exciting. Specifically, there's binding chains. Okay, so you can make this last 4 seconds and cost 6 energy. That's cool. There's Dulled Weapon. Okay, so making Dulled Weapon last... more communing would obviously make it last longer as well. But making it last, like 16 seconds or whatever, that's nice. Making it like 11. Okay. Okay, that's not bad, but, it's all right. Okay, so what others do we have? We have all of here. Okay, we've got... let's put some points in channeling magic so we can get a little bit of a realistic understanding of it. We have Renewing Surge. Okay, so that will make this like 1 energy or whatever. So I'm going to make it way cheaper. And 33% longer. That's going to be, I don't know how they're going to round, but that's probably going to be about 2 seconds here. It's probably not going to be the full 3 seconds. But, about that. So it's going to make it deal 20 to 30 more damage. Okay, that's not bad, but there's not. It could be more exciting. Painful Bond. Oh man, making this cheaper is great. Making it last from 18 seconds. Boosting it all the way up by another 6 seconds to like 24. Certainly useful. 12-second recharge though means I don't really need to be able to recharge it early. Making it cheaper is nice. And then there's Lamentation. Yep, that's the last one. Which certainly making it last longer is nice. Making it cheaper doesn't hurt. But my point of going through all of this is Anguish Waslingua is the sort of skill that when you read it on the surface, it's like the effects of this are really powerful. Making your Ritualist hexes 4 energy cheaper is a really powerful effect. Making them last 33% longer is a powerful effect. Dropping it to recharge all of them could be really useful. But there's only 5 hexes spread across 2 attribute lines. There's not enough skills for this to work with. There are no other hexes in spawning power. The PvE-only skills are not hexes. The no attribute skill is not a hex. You only literally have 5 skills for this to work with. So, unfortunately, I don't know which one of those you really want to make this... You're going to be using this to make them better. I feel like the best one is Renewing Surge, and even that is like, in terms of using this with, because then it becomes way better energy management. But even that, in my mind, is it's questionable. So, unfortunately, this is one of those skills where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give this a 1. Because I don't even think trying to make the build with all of the Ritualist hexes to take full advantage of this is worth making. If this was like a Necromancer or a Mesmer skill, or if it worked with Necromancer and Mesmer skills, where it's like, oh man, I can take any hexes and make them way cheaper and last longer, that would be ludicrously powerful and probably elite worthy. But only working with Ritualist hexes when there's literally only 5 Ritualist hexes, it's just not worth it. Like, I'm scanning over these again. Yep, there's the 2 here. And because hexes always have that little pink down arrow in their skill icon, right? That little pink down arrow. Magenta, whatever you want to call it, indicating that they're a hex. And so there are basically no Ritualist hexes for this to work with. So I have to give it a 1 because it's like, there's no build for this. This is a build around me skill with no skills, with like a minimal of skills to build around. So I don't know if it's something that they had plans to make this something that could be awesome and better and things, but it's just not there. So I need to give it a 1 because there's just not enough material for this to work with. That's just kind of where it is. Like, again, this would be a superb Mesmer or Necromancer skill. If, like, skill to work with our hexes, but it's just not for Ritualists. So, attuned with Sonkai. 10 energy, 2-second cast time, 60-second recharge. Elite item spell. Hold Sonkai's ashes for up to 45 seconds. So you do not get 100% uptime with this. You get 75%. While you hold her ashes, your spells and binding rituals cost minus 41% of the base energy to cast. So this is like this, except it applies to all of your spells, and it makes them cheaper. This is powerful energy management. It has the downside, of course, of only having a 75% uptime. You kind of want your energy management stuff like this to have better uptime. But this is quite powerful. Obviously, it scales, so your 5 energy skills are going to have 2 energy knocked off, so they're going to be 3 energy. Your 10 energy skills are going to have 4 knocked off and be 6 energy, and so on and so forth, up to 25 energy skills having 10 energy knocked off and being 15. So this is very powerful energy management, and it works with any spell. So you could be working with, say, monk spells and making them cheaper and stuff like that. So as far as energy management goes, this is actually quite powerful, but it is an elite. It takes up your elite slot. It is an item spell. It does not have 100% uptime. All of those are kind of knocks against it. So I think it requires a very specific sort of situation where you want to be working with this. And really, I'm going to give this a 2. And it's just because that 100% uptime, not having 100% uptime, is a big enough downside that I feel like you want to do something about that. So whether that's using Arcane, Arcane Echo, be able to duplicate this, to be able to reuse it after about 20 seconds or so, to be able to try to get 100% uptime, or like, I think there are ways you can kind of try to achieve that, but it's clunky. So it's a powerful effect. It's just, I really, 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 really wish it had like a 30-second recharge or something like that, so I could actually keep this up. Boon of Creation. 10 energy, 2-second cast time, 45-second recharge, enchantment spell. For 51 seconds, whenever you create a creature, you gain 41 health and 5 energy. Notably, this works when you make minions as well. So there is some ability for Ritualists to be minion masters. Again, Ritualists and Necromancer are very close professions, and they're decidedly not the same, but they are very close. And they're playing in this kind of overlapped area. So the fact that this works with minions is pretty cool. And helps offset the lack of soul reaping for Ritualists if you're going a more minion mastery route. And it also works really well if you are making a bunch of spirits that are perhaps more expensive. I generally would bring this more as energy management than I would as for health. but, you know, the health is a nice bonus. To me, this is a 2. I generally am not wanting this, but if you want the energy management, this is a powerful way of getting it. It's just I usually don't. So, and it's good for this sort of thing to exist, and Spawning Power is certainly the appropriate place for it. A Necromancer being able to make good use of this skill would be a little inappropriate, in my opinion. Consume Soul. This is 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 5 second recharge, elite spell. You steal 49 health from target foe. Okay? All hostile summoned creatures in the area of that foe take 105 damage. So you bring this not for the mediocre lifesteal. You bring this because it does a bunch of area of effect damage to summoned creatures. So here's the thing. I'm bringing up the party window again because it's really important we get some context. Specifically, hi, random stuff. Domination magic has a skill called Spiritual Pain, which deals, which is 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 7 second recharge. So it's a bit longer recharge, but target foe takes 63 damage. That's bigger than 49 last I checked. And all hostile summoned creatures in the area of that foe take 105 damage. Which sounds an awful lot like the amount of damage that Consume Soul does. Here's the thing. I would rather bring Spiritual Pain because it's not an elite. It deals more damage to my target. The 7 second versus 5 second recharge is just not a big deal. They're both 5 energy. 63 damage to the target as opposed to stealing 49 health from the target is preferable. And dealing 105 damage either way to the summoned creatures in the area of that foe, because this is summoned creatures in the area of that foe. And Spiritual Pain is... What's the area of effect on that one? In the area of that foe. They're basically the same skill, except Consume Spirit deals less damage, has a mildly shorter recharge, and takes up my elite slot. This is not worth taking up your elite slot for. That's really what it comes down to. Not when Spiritual Pain is almost identical functionality, but not taking up my elite slot. And so this is literally competing against a non-elite skill from a not primary attribute line. So if this had, like, if this was Destroy Target Spirit, or like, if this was like steal health from target foe, if that foe is a spirit, steal all health from that foe, and all hostile summoned creatures in the area of that foe take 105 damage, then we're talking, because it would have the ability to destroy enemy spirits, and that would be, or, you know, summoned creatures, so minions as well, then that would be a powerful countermeasure spell, and that would be worth talking about. As it is just not better than Spiritual Pain, in my opinion. So I don't want this. I'm going to give it a 2 because it does do stuff. It's just, I'm never picking over Spiritual Pain unless, like, some weird extenuating circumstances are happening. And this, even by itself, even if Spiritual Pain wasn't an issue here, I still would not be interested in bringing this unless I'm going into an area where I know there's going to be spirits being summoned or minions being animated. Without summoned creatures in the area for this to deal damage to, it's just too weak to be of any interest to me. Doom. Besides being a fun game and being a great name, this is 10 energy, 1 second cast time, 8 second recharge spell. Strike target foe for 34 lightning damage, maximum 35 for every recharging binding ritual you have. So this is going to cap out at, let's see, 4, I believe. 120 plus 16. Yeah, so you need 4 binding rituals at the 34 damage to hit the cap. This does hit really hard, but I'm not sure that this is worth the 10 energy with the 8 second recharge to bring. Especially in high level areas, this becomes really uninteresting. The fact that it's lightning damage, like, so it's this uneven thing where the fact that it's lightning damage is better than armor ignoring damage in low level areas, and I mean low level, not just like Korna or something, or Kaineng City. Areas where enemies actually have, 60 armor when they're casters. But I mean, like, low-level areas like Xingzhe, where I am now, where enemies are below level 20 and therefore have less than max armor. in that case, this will actually deal really good damage, but most of the time it's going to deal less damage than that. And your binding rituals are probably going to be more useful. Basically, the damage of this falls off as you get into those high level areas, and it becomes less interesting to me. So I'm going to give this a 2. It does have the ability to hit pretty hard, but you do have to bring a lot of binding rituals. I like the idea of what this is doing. It does scale with binding rituals. That's really cool. But honestly, I feel like this is the sort of spell that's just going to be a little bit clunky, and I'm not really wanting it, in large part just because I don't feel like it's going to do enough for the amount of rigmarole I have to go through to get it to work. Empowerment. Empowerment is 5 energy, 3/4 second, cast time 30-second recharge, binding ritual. Create a lovely 11 spirit, all allies within its range, holding an item. Gain 39 maximum health and 10 maximum energy. The spirit dies after 51 seconds. If you need a random binding ritual, I guess this is an option. It's certainly not a first choice for me. Its benefits are very minimal. You're not bringing this for the maximum health, you're bringing it for the 10 maximum energy. That lessens some of the sting of losing maximum energy from not being able to hold your weapon because you're holding an item. I don't feel like I want this the vast majority of the time. It is kind of a unique effect, and it is a cheap spirit to kind of like throw away to things that blow up spirits. We'll see some of those later. But bluntly stated, this is not really what I'm looking for. So I'm going to give this a 2, in part because it's kind of a unique effect, and it's like there's always some use to having a spirit, so it's kind of hard for them to be straight up 1. But I'm very unexcited by this one, so yeah, it is what it is, I guess. A little bit of useful utility that's just not quite useful enough for me to bring most of the time. Energetic was Lisa. Yep. That's a way we can spell Lisa. 10 energy, 2-second cast time, 20-second recharge, item spell. Hold Lisa's ashes for 13 seconds. While you hold her ashes, you gain +2 energy regeneration. When you drop her ashes, you gain +8 energy. So the 8 energy almost cancels out. The 13-second duration... So 2 pips of energy regeneration is equivalent to 2/3 of an energy per second. So every 3 seconds, you're gaining... every 3 seconds, you are gaining 2 energy. So at 13-second duration, that's going to be roughly 8 energy you gain off of this. So this does net you energy. It's important to make sure your energy management skills net you energy. In terms of energy management, I think this reads a little bit better than it actually plays. It's all right. It's not terribly exciting. It's not an elite, and that makes me like it a little bit better. I certainly like Siphon Spirit a little bit better if I have spirits around to siphon from, because that nets me 8 energy per use. And this, like, you have to be holding it. In terms of hold item, this is an alright choice. I'm going to give this a 2. Just because I'm not particularly enthusiastic about it as energy management. It's alright energy management. But I'm also not terribly excited about it as a hold item, but it's alright. So I feel like it's okay, but I feel like there's better options for both of these things, so I tend to prefer one of those. For example, if I'm summoning creatures, Boon of Creation is significantly better energy management. It's going to be able to gain me a lot more energy. And some of the elite energy management is a lot more powerful, certainly. So, yeah. Plus, I'm happy to just bring Blood Ritual on a party member, and that's going to allow me to supply my whole party, so not terribly excited by it. Explosive Growth. 5 energy, 2-second cast time, 45-second recharge, enchantment spell. For 51 seconds, whenever you create a creature, up to 5 foes near that creature are struck for 56 lightning damage. So this one's interesting because it has a lot of potential to deal damage. It obviously works off of spirits, although that's a little unexciting because you don't want to be creating spirits in the midst of enemies, typically. Although if there's enemies in your backline, obviously it'll hurt them. What's more interesting, though, is using this with Animate Minions. Animate Minions specifically, because Animate Minions creates 2 minions, and this will trigger off of each one. that's a specific build that you can make, and I think it's actually a pretty interesting one. It's a pretty cool one. This, like I said, works off of minions. You get 2 of them. It's kind of like a putrid explosion stapled to actually getting some minions, and I think that's really cool. As it is, I'm going to give this a 2. I think it's got some great spots in some very specific builds, but I'm not usually going to use this. So it's a really cool idea, though, and I really like the design of this skill, and I'm glad that it exists. So, you know, it's got that going for it. Feast of Souls. So Feast of Souls is 10 energy, quarter-second cast time, 10-second recharge spell. Destroy all nearby allied spirits. So this includes your own, but basically all allied spirits in the area. Or all nearby spirits, allied spirits. For each spirit destroyed in this way, all party members are healed for 90 health. So this is kind of, this is a weird one. It's quarter-second cast time, so it comes off very quickly, which is really nice. It uses up a pretty big resource of spirits. And it's a party heal. This is not a casual party heal. This is an oh crap party heal. This is a skill that you bring in an area where it's like, okay, all of the spirits are dying, everybody's dying, I'm just going to pop this, and, you know, if Sickness of Spirits is up and things like that, and you're getting like 3, 4 spirits, even 5 spirits, you can get ludicrous amounts of party healing off of this. Like, if you are getting 4 spirits off of this, that's 360 HP to all party members. That's a really strong party heal, but you're spending all of these spirits to do it. So the 10-second recharge is a little bit of a misnomer because, I mean, like I said, you're using a lot of spirits to be able to get this healing off. Let's see. Yeah, this is an alternative. Spirit to Flesh is kind of an alternative that it works a little bit differently. So anyway, this is, like I was saying, this is a really powerful kind of oh crap heal. I generally am not going to use this. I don't want to be destroying all of my spirits. So I'm going to give this a 2. I appreciate the effect. I think the effect is really cool. The main reason why I'm giving it a 2 is just because it's going to have a really hard time working its way onto my bar, because this is a very extreme measure. Blowing up a bunch of my spirits to heal my party is just not something that I'm wanting to do a lot, because blowing up all my spirits is just something I'm not wanting to do a whole lot, regardless of what the effect is. Doing it to hurt enemies is something that is more favorable to me than it is to heal my allies, for what that's worth. So something like Rupture Soul becomes a little bit more interesting. But Feast of Souls is certainly a potent effect, or has the potential to be a potent effect. And I like the design space it's playing around in. Again, this one scales with the spirits being destroyed, and that's something that I really like. It's just a very extreme measure. Ghostly Haste. 10 energy, 1 second cast time, 20 second recharge enchantment spell. For 17 seconds, spells you cast while within earshot of a spirit recharge 25% faster. This is an interesting one. So this is a little bit like the one weapon of quickening spell. It only affects your spells. Recharging 25% faster can be meaningful. This isn't a skill that I use all that often by any means, but the effect is not unreasonable. It's useful. The main issue that it has is a lot of the spells that I kind of want to use already have like 3 and 4 second recharges. So cutting maybe 1 second off is not quite worth a skill slot. I'm going to give this one a 3 for potential, because I do feel like this has some potential to do some cool stuff. I'm not quite sure when I'm doing that. Reclaim Essence. 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 30 second recharge, elite spell. All of your spirits die. That's a great opener. You gain 17 energy, and all of your binding rituals are recharged if a spirit died in this way. So you can't just use this with no spirits up, but if you have at least a spirit up, like the idea of this is you use it, and it kills all of your spirits, refunds the energy, and recharges all of the rituals so you can start using them again. 30 second recharge, unfortunately, is a bit long for that, in my opinion. This skill, as an elite, has a couple of competitors. It has Soul Twist as a competitor. I believe Ritual Lord is kind of a competitor-ish. But Soul Twisting is a huge competitor for it. And it's actually, as a player, it's competing with Summon Spirits as well. and Summon Spirits knocks it out of the park compared to that one. So unfortunately, like, Reclaim Essence to me is like, I'm not quite sure when I'm going to want to use this guy. I feel like this is one of those where I'm like, this is kind of like a 3. It's just kind of a middle of the road skill. And I feel like there are other options that are stronger that I prefer. So I'm just going to give it that. Obviously, you don't want to bring this without having Binding Rituals. So that's significant. Renewing Memories. Renewing Memories is 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 20-second recharge, enchantment spell for 17. There's a lot of these like 17-second skills, like, or 17-second duration, 20-second recharge skills and rituals I'm noticing. But anyway, for 17 seconds while holding an item, any weapon and item spells you cast cost 29% less energy. So that's roughly a third. This is an energy management skill. You do have to be holding an item. It's a very narrow set of skills that it's making cheaper, though. Like, how many weapon spells am I really using that are going to be, like, I guess this probably makes Weapon of Warding that 7 energy that makes it appealing, but I have to be holding an item, which is, like, okay. This feels like a 2 to me. It requires some really specific stuff. It requires me to be using weapon spells that are going to be expensive enough that I want a third off of the cost. Like, so 5 energy skills, I imagine this is reducing by 1 energy. I doubt it's reducing by 2. And that's just not quite enough. And I have to be holding an item. It makes that item cheaper if I can use it while this is up. This also doesn't have 100% uptime. Well, it does with a enchanting weapon, but then you're not holding an item. It's very awkward. It has a lot of tensions in different directions. So I'm not terribly excited by this. I feel like it could be okay if you're matching its criteria, but yeah. Ritual Lord is very strange. It's 2% max health sacrifice and 45-second recharge. No cast time, no energy cost. It is an elite skill. For 29 seconds, your ritual's attributes are boosted by 4 for your next skill. If that skill is a binding ritual, it recharges 50% faster, and Ritual Lord recharges instantly. So this is basically for supercharging your binding rituals. This is what it's really for. It certainly is powerful in that regard, but it's also a little bit awkward to use. It's a cool design. I like it a little bit better than Reclaim Essence, but not significantly. I think I'm going to give this another 2. Like, you have to use this for very specific builds. Like, Ritualist really could do with like another dozen binding rituals realistically, in communing magic primarily, and they are in just communing. It's not magic. Grr. And it could use a little bit more, just like variety of names and stuff. But boosting, like having 4 more communing, you could have like 20 communing and having really powerful spirits that you're making off of this. So I think it can definitely be powerful, but that's a very specific build. This is not like a casual, like, use whenever skill. So, yeah, that's where Ritual Lord kind of fits. But I really like the design of this skill, so I think that's really cool. Rupture Soul. This is 10 energy, 3/4 second cast time, 5-second recharge spell. Target allied spirit is destroyed. All nearby foes are struck for 122 lightning damage and become blinded for 10 seconds. This is a powerful effect, but it does cost you your spirits, which is dubious because a lot of them have fairly lengthy recharges, so you're not using this. Like, you can use this kind of often, but not as often as you'd think based on the recharge. I think it uses the spirit nearest an enemy if you target an enemy when you use this, but I'm not positive on that. I feel like this is a 3. This is just like, yeah, this is fine. I don't want this a lot of the time, but like, I don't mind it. The blind is a huge benefit to this, by the way. If an enemy or a group of enemies are attacking one of your spirit and killing it, Rupture Soul that spirit, damage all those enemies and blind them so they can't do stuff. Like, that's a really good use for the skill, and it's certainly strong in those sorts of situations, but just a lot of the time, I'm just not bringing this because I'm bringing a Ritualist with a very specific build that this doesn't have room for this on it. That's kind of what it comes down to. Sight Beyond Sight. 5 energy, quarter second cast time, 15-second recharge enchantment spell. For 18 seconds, you cannot be blinded. This lasts for like 7 or 8 seconds without any spawning power. You cannot be blinded is an extremely powerful line of text for dealing with blind. This is a very situational skill. This is a 2. This is a very strong 2. And I will use this in some areas if there's a lot of blind going on. If I'm using a Spirit Strength build, I will consider using Sight Beyond Sight. And I will consider using it on a secondary ritualist that's a physical attacker, like a warrior or dervish or an assassin or something, if I'm in an area where I know there's going to be a lot of blind. The main areas that are going to be like that are going to have some of the undead sorcerers that use like Blinding Surge and Eruption and things like that. So if there's a bunch of elementalist skills that are basically is the main source of blind in vast quantities. So if there's going to be a lot of those that are going to be blinding me, Sight Beyond Sight is really fantastic because it does allow you to just ignore the blind by making you immune to it. You can't be blinded. I'm not going to bring this just generally, but if I know I'm going in one of those areas, this is a perfect way of dealing with it. So keep this in the back of your mind if you're playing a physical attacker and you're going into like Shards of Ore or something where blinds are highly prevalent. And this is a great way of dealing with that. But, you know, otherwise there's just not much point. Signet of Binding. 2-second activation time, 15-second recharge. Signet. You lose 80 health and take control of target enemy-controlled spirit. 50% chance of failure with spawning power 4 or less. You need at least 5 spawning power to be able to use this reliably. You'll lose a lot of health if you don't have a bunch of spawning power. This is another one of those skills that I like as a counter strategy. I think Gaze of Fury is a bit better choice. So Gaze of Fury blows up the spirit and makes your own. But you can certainly use this as an alternative to take control of it. I think Gaze of Fury is introduced later as well. It should be added. This is a 2. It's kind of useless if you're going into an area that doesn't have enemy-controlled spirits. But if you are, it's an option. I wouldn't use this on nature rituals, although technically you can. I would primarily consider using this if the enemy is using, like, Shadow Song, something like that. In which case, it's great to be able to turn those. But otherwise, I'm not often going to want to bring this, but I like this skill existing as a counter strategy to I'm making spirits. This is a really great skill to have to exist as a counter strategy, and I like it from that standpoint. So cool, kudos on the skill existing. There's just not a lot of instances in which I want it. So Signet of Creation. 1-second activation time, 20-second recharge. Signet. You gain 4 energy for every summoned creature you control within earshot, maximum 10 energy. So you need 2.5? Basically 3 summoned creatures is going to cap this out. This is very unexciting energy management, quite bluntly. I don't have much more to say than that. I believe this works with minions as well, for what it's worth. But, so here's the thing. Boon of Creation exists. Boon of Creation gains me 5 energy every time I make something. That quickly eclipses the amount of energy that this gains. So I don't like Signet of Creation very much. The energy cap is just way too stringent and all those sorts of things. Boon of Creation exists. It does do a thing. I'm going to give it a 2, but I'm not terribly excited by it. There are other options for energy management that we've seen that I think are better. So, yeah, that's no need to dwell on it longer than that. The idea is there, but the cap is just way too tight. It needs to be up to like 20 or something. At 12 spawning power. Soul Twisting. Soul Twisting is 5 energy, 15-second recharge. I don't know where the 12 is coming from. No activation time. It is an elite skill. For 37 seconds, your binding rituals cost 15 less energy for a minimum of 10. So it's not going to reduce them below 10, but it will reduce them to 10. And they recharge instantly. Soul Twisting ends after 3 binding rituals. Soul Twisting is a build. This is another, like, 2. You don't just bring this to grease the wheels or whatever. But you bring this with, like, Shelter and Union and Displacement or something. And it's like, Those recharge instantly and are way more affordable because they all cost 10 energy now. And they recharge in 15 seconds because that's the recharge of Soul Twisting. So Soul Twisting is a build. It's a very specific build. You're building around this skill. It is not a general use skill. And that's been the case for a lot of these. Like Ritual Lord and Reclaim Essence are all the same way. Soul Twisting is the most effective for getting them back up. Reclaim Essence is just too long of a recharge for that. And, you know, making them cheaper. Ritual Lord makes them more powerful and is a little bit more generally useful, but Soul Twisting is a very powerful skill. If you are focusing on, I have a set of a few spirits that kill themselves very quickly, this will make them able to be around a lot more, and that's very powerful. Outside of that, I'm not really going to use it because I don't need to, for example, make my attack spirits recharge a bunch faster because they're probably not, I probably don't need that. So this works really great with like Shelter and Union or like Displacement or any of those spirits that kill themselves super quickly, but it's not worth it outside of those. Spirit Channeling, 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 30-second recharge, elite enchantment spell. For 12 seconds, you have a massive +5 energy regeneration. When you cast a spell, you gain 10 energy if you are within earshot of a spirit. So, +5 energy regeneration is 5/3 energy per second. So, it's going to be like 5 energy every 3 seconds. Yeah, 5 energy every 3 seconds. So, at 12 seconds, that's going to be 4 times 5. That's going to be 20 energy. So, if there's a spirit, this gains you 30 energy. 30 energy minus 5 for 25 energy gained every 30 seconds off of this. The +5 energy regeneration sounds way more impressive than it actually is in real energy terms. So 25 energy every 30 seconds versus 10 energy every 15. That's 20 energy. Oh, looks like this is better than that one sacrifice spell. Interesting. That said, this is reasonable energy management, but I feel like there are other options that can also be pretty powerful. I'm going to give this a 2. Just because, like, yeah, this is general energy management, but I'm elite slots are tight competition, and spending your elite on energy management, like, for contrast, I talked about it earlier, but Offering of Life is 17 energy at 12 blood magic every 15 seconds. That outpaces this, because that's 34 energy every 30 seconds. Bringing a blood ritual user allows you to keep up +3 energy. I mean, that's 1 energy per second. That's not as impressive as what this does, ostensibly, but over the course of 30 seconds, that's 30 energy. So this looks really strong, and it is pretty strong for energy management, but there are other options that are just straight up more powerful. And so I'm going to prefer those in terms of, like, they will net me more energy long term or just things like that. And don't take it. My elite slot can help my entire party. That's the thing about blood rituals. It helps your entire party. So I like it better from that standpoint. So Spirit Channeling it's all right. It's pretty cool in terms of, like, its icon is neat. The energy gain from it is actually relatively strong. It's just there are a lot of other options, and I'm happy to use Siphon Spirit with Signet of Spirits and stuff like that. So the fact that it's an elite is part of what hampers us quite a bit. Spirit to Flesh. 10 energy, 3/4 second cast time, 15-second recharge spell. Target touched allied spirit is destroyed. All nearby allies are healed for 198. This one's okay. Honestly, so this is an AoE heal, which is really reasonable, but it's also all nearby, so it's not a big range. So something like Spirit Transfer can heal a single ally for more than what this does without killing, or Spirit Flesh does without killing the spirit. The advantage of this is it's a healing skill that's in spawning power and not restoration magic, so you can kind of make use of it if you're not in restoration magic. And it does blow up one spirit. It can heal like multiple allies for a good chunk, so I feel like this is maybe a 3 to me. It feels like it's kind of more in that area. I like this sort of effect too. I like using spirits as resources, so that's pretty cool. And 15-second recharge is actually fine on this because you don't want to be blowing up your spirits too often generally. So I feel like this is a reasonable skill. Spirit's Gift. 10 energy, 1 second cast time, 45-second recharge, enchantment spell for 60 seconds. Ah, good. 100% uptime. That's always good. Whenever you create a creature, all allies near that creature gain 41 health and lose 1 condition. This is cool. I feel like I like this reasonably well, and this is actually a skill that would work really well with Signet of Spirits, because you pop Signet of Spirits, and it's like a big party heal for your party, and they lose like 3 conditions. All that seems really cool, so this actually feels like it's pretty good. It also feels like it could work okay in sort of the explosive growth minions build. So that seems really cool too. I'm going to give this a 3 because it seems like it's probably generally useful. It's a skill that maybe I've underestimated a little bit. I'm not quite feeling a 4 on it, but it might be worth testing out in that sort of build. So one that I should consider. Okay. Spirit's Strength. Spirit's Strength is 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 30-second recharge, elite enchantment spell. For 51 seconds, your attacks deal 29 more damage while under the effects of a weapon spell. This is a build. This is a 2. You are building around this guy. It's a cool build. It's a fun build. You are now in melee or whatever. It works well with a bow. It works super well with volley. It's like, oh yeah, my volley now deals 29 more damage. Obviously does not work with barrage, because barrage is also an elite. But I really like the space that Spirit Strength is playing around in, because I think that's a cool idea. Of let's have some sort of way of rewarding weapon spells that allows you to be like, ha, now I'm powered up with a spirit. It's a cool flavor. It's a fun kind of alternate build to run. Little janky, but you know, this is sort of skill that's like, this is fun to run. It's not great to run. So you do want to be aware of enchantment removal, obviously, and you do want to consider Weapon of Aggression is like custom made for this. It works really well because it increases your attack speed, and that's kind of what you want. And I believe that 29 more damage is armor ignoring. Pretty sure. So basically, this makes you hit really friggin' hard, but now you're a spellcaster in melee range, so maybe be a little careful. Weapon of Renewal. 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 10-second recharge, weapon spell. For 9 seconds, the next time target ally hits with an attack skill, that ally gains 6 energy. This is weird. It's a weird single target sort of energy management skill. I believe Motivation actually has a variant on this concept. I'm probably not going to find it very quickly. It's probably something... Lyric of Zeal? Not quite. Zealous... Yeah, Zealous Anthem right here. With actual investment in motivation, this is like a party-wide thing, or an ally-wide thing, because this is earshot range. Use an attack skill, they gain energy. I feel like if I'm going to do something like that, I want Zealous Anthem over... What was this skill? Weapon of Renewal? Like, this takes up... Like, this is a weapon, and... Like, you don't want to use this on yourself, because you're netting 1 energy, which is not worth it. So you want to use this on an ally... Then it becomes kind of awkward. Like, what ally are you giving this to? You could be giving this to, like, a warrior, and then they can gain some. But I'd rather give them splinter weapons so they can do area of effect damage. I don't know. Honestly, I'm going to give this guy a 1. It does technically do something, but it's the most awkward to use skill. Like, when do you know when they need energy? And then you're going to be using this on them, and then they're kind of gain energy, and it's just... this just feels like way too much work to gain some energy on like a warrior, assassin, or dervish or something, or like maybe a ranger. I could see maybe using this on a ranger for broadhead arrow, but their primary attribute's all energy management. I don't know. I feel like there is an alternative option that feels more generally applicable, that gains overall more energy. This just feels really awkward to use. I don't know when I want to use this. I don't feel like that's what a Weapon of Renewal would do. So I'm not excited about this one, and I don't particularly want it. Wielder's Remedy. 5 energy, 1 second cast time, 10 second recharge, enchantment spell for 26 seconds. Hooray, 100% uptime. Whenever you cast a weapon spell on an ally, that ally loses 1 condition. So this dubiously works with the one ghostly weapon that had 1 second recharge. I like this better with Vengeful Weapon or one of those guys. I feel like this is actually pretty reasonable to use on some sort of ritualist that's using a lot of weapon spells to kind of heal allies. The big concerns that I have with it is Mend Body and Soul Exists, which tends to remove a lot of conditions very effectively. So this is kind of competing functionality-wise with that, although that's not the worst. The bigger issue, honestly, is I'm not sure if the AI would then realize that they can start applying weapons to heal conditions. But just because I play with a lot of AI most of the time. With players, this becomes a little bit more interesting to use as a player, because then you know, like, oh, I can use my weapon skills to also heal conditions. So I feel like this is a nice little bonus. I'm going to give this a 3. Because you're usually wanting to be able to remove conditions, and this is a fine way of doing it. So I like kind of the area where this is at in terms of like what it's doing, and it's a nice reward for using weapon spells, and I don't know. I would like to see more things kind of playing in the space of like whenever you cast a weapon spell on an ally, that ally gets benefit. Like, honestly, I was talking about it in Restoration Magic, but the Mending Grip, if this made it so that if it was an enchantment on you, that whenever you cast a weapon spell on an ally, that ally is healed for health, that would be really cool. Its current implementation is not, but you know, that would be really cool. So, Wielder's Remedy, fine skill. Wielder's Zeal. 10 energy, 1 second cast time, 10 second recharge, elite enchantment spell for 26 seconds. Whenever you cast a weapon spell on an ally, you gain 4 energy. This is another energy management skill. You definitely want to be using frequent enough recharging. Like, this is something where you're using a lot of weapon spells. So because this is basically a refund on them, I don't know why it's not just your weapon spells cost 4 less energy. Might as well say that. But here we are. You have to have the initial investment. I'm not sure how often I'm going to really be using them enough that this becomes worthwhile, honestly. I'm going to give this a 2. It does do a thing. It makes your weapon spells cheaper. I just don't know how often I really want that. And you're spending 10 energy for that privilege. This is a very generous 2. It's borderline a 1, but I'm going to leave it at 2 because I feel like it's maybe a little bit more interesting than that. If this was whenever you cast a weapon spell on an ally, they gain 4 energy, this would be sweet. But as it is, I'm not interested in it. So, yeah. Moving on, we have the Friend of the Kurzix / Friend of the Luxon's title track skill. This is one of the PvE-only skills, so we're moving on to the PvE-only section. Summon Spirits is 5 energy, 1/4 second cast time, 5 second recharge spell. All of your spirits, all spirits you control, rather, shadow step to your location and gain 100 health. This is extremely powerful. As PvE-only, the AI cannot use it. This is, of course, only useful if you are making a lot of spirits, but it does heal them. It can move them out of harm's way. And you can drag them along with you as you're kind of moving through the map, because spirits are stationary, they don't move. And so this allows you to move them. This gives some mobility to otherwise a very turret-like build composition. So this is a useful skill. Because that sort of build is common enough, I'm going to give it a 4. But it's kind of a 4 with an asterisk next to it, where it's kind of like functioning as a 2, because this is kind of worthless if you don't have any spirits. But it's very, very good if you do have a bunch of spirits. I'm just going to drop it over here for later. So this is the sort of PvE skill that you conceptually want, in that it helps counteract one of the weaknesses of the profession in a way that is useful, but on the other hand, covering up weaknesses is not necessarily the best idea. So, I don't know. Mileage may vary. That brings us to Vampirism. So, Vampirism is the Sun Spirit title track skill. It is 10 energy, 3/4 second cast time, 30-second recharge, Binding Ritual. Create a level 14 spirit that dies after 150 seconds. Attacks by this spirit steal up to 20 health, and you are healed for 20 health. So basically, whenever the spirit lands an attack, it steals 20 health, up to 20 health from the foe, and it heals you for 20. The healing you for 20 is nice and incidental. This is basically like an upgrade to Bloodsong. But what's really nice is it doesn't require any attribute investment. I'm going to give this one a 4 as well. I don't always want this effect, but this really helps flesh out the number of spirits you have that are just attacking spirits, which is something that you kind of want in Ritualist, because that's kind of a thing that you're trying to do, but they all need to have different names, and it gets awkward because you have Pain, Shadow Song, Blood Song, and then the list starts getting a little bit more questionable, where you're like Dissonance, Disenchantment, Anguish. Some of these are kind of expensive. So having Vampirism to kind of buffer that count, because you really want to have like a roster of like 8 or 9, and we don't quite have that. But Vampirism really does help fill that out in a really nice way. So it's a very useful skill. And then finally we have Draw Spirit. So Draw Spirit is 5 energy, 1/4 second cast time, 5-second recharge. Spell, teleport target allied spirit to your location. There's no reason to use it over Summon Spirit. Summon Spirits drags all of your spirits. This drags... Now, the one advantage of Draw Spirit is this can be any allied spirit, so it doesn't have to be one you control. So if, for example, your other ritualists or your ranger or something, like let's say your ranger makes a nature ritual, you can drag it along with Draw Spirit, even if you are not that ranger. Heroes can also use this, so I guess that's technically a thing. But Summon Spirits has the exact same stats. 5 energy, 5-second recharge, 1/4 second cast time. That's why I put it in here. So it's just better than Draw Spirit. I am going to give Draw Spirit a 2, because if it wasn't for Summon Spirits, Draw Spirit would be kind of like the way of doing that, and maybe you want the effect, but Summon Spirits as a player is just superior to Draw Spirit in like 99% of cases. So, yeah, that's where things kind of sit with all of that. So, I'm glad that they made Draw Spirit, but yeah, that covers all of that business. So that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for the Ritualist. Like I said, next time I'm going to be talking about the Dervish. And until then, everyone, take care and goodbye.